Soldiers, sailors, airmen and women enlist in the armed forces for many reasons, including a sense of duty, patriotism, the adventure, travel, and adrenaline. When service members are injured or wounded and can no longer perform their military duties, they quickly find themselves removed from their team, no longer serving the purpose for which they trained.
I came back from Afghanistan in 2013, and it was kind of a trial and error of finding out, after the military, what's next in life.
Motorsports offers an opportunity to regain that sense of identity within a safe, fast-paced team environment, providing a renewed sense of purpose. Like in the military, in motorsports the goal is in accomplishing the mission, winning as a team, collectively celebrating the successes and supporting teammates through the losses. Operation Motorsport also offers virtual engagements and recovery opportunities through an iRacing league, engaging beneficiaries in a safe, competitive environment from the comfort and safety of their home. Operation Motorsport believes in the power of team, identity, and purpose.
Hello, this is Jason with Operation Motorsport. We'd like to introduce you to some of our beneficiaries who were active during the GT World Challenged SRO race at New Orleans Motorsport Park this past weekend.
This weekend I've been working with Steve over on GT4 and with Charlie over on the TC cars, doing the tech inspections for them, checking the ride height, weight, camber, and also the tire pressure and things like that. When they come back from the races, then the top 3 or top 5, depending on the class, have to come through and get everything checked all over again to make sure that they ran the race within the regulations. Sometimes we have to pull some parts and measure those. It all depends on what comes down from the technical director. Operation Motorsport has actually done a lot for me in a really short period of time. It's pretty amazing to feel part of a team again and have some kind of a purpose. It's really, really amazing. And the value for me, at least, it goes way beyond just oh, it's very cool that I'm learning how to do ride height on cars. Yeah. That is absolutely not the main value for me.
Yeah.
You feel like you got some worth, man.
Yeah,
worth something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. In here, I feel like I can contribute. I mean, it's not a big contribution, but it doesn't matter. Even in the military, somebody's got to get the food ready. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I can help here. I can do stuff. I can learn stuff.
Yeah.
People are patient. Nobody acts like I'm stupid if I ask a silly question.
Yeah.
I'm learning. You know, and it feels really nice to be somewhere where I can learn something that I'm actually interested in and feel a part of a team and there's people I can count on and things like that.
Well, I think
so. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's done a lot for me.
evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the second round of the 6th season of Operation E-Motorsport iRacing League, live from iRacing's virtual circuit Zolder in Zolder, Belgium. I'm your host, Rachel Whitefoot, and joined by my colleague in the booth tonight, Rodney Campbell. You might recognize him as a driver in previous seasons, and he's joining us now in the commentary side. Our producer this evening is Gary Sexton, and Gary is using cameras created by the great Dougie Beard. Well, Rodney, we're here at Zolder. It's one of the two Belgian circuits, including Spa-Francorchamps, and what we would realistically consider, in terms of how it races, the non-street circuit.
Yes, it's a very tight circuit and very different than our last race at Daytona, where it was a wide open, high speed, a lot of slow speed chicanes here, and a lot more technical of a track than it was last time round, but we'll see how the drivers adapt. It'll be a good change of pace for them.
We certainly will, and of course pit in is easy here. Pit out though is a little bit more complicated with the lengthy pit road there. We'll have to keep an eye on how that operates during the race. We're doing solo qualifying at the moment, so you'll see the drivers out on track. And I do believe we have a new driver in tonight's race. We have Steve Santana joining the open class, so we'll add him onto the list there as we get going for tonight. But of course, don't forget, the different classes in this series, as always, include our Pro, Beneficiary, and Open classes, but we also have a second Beneficiary class now, the Beneficiary Pros, for those guys who are just too darn fast. Those guys, of course, are running in the same car as the Pros, but they are beneficiaries of Operation Motorsport programs. The classes, as you see on your screen right now, are, well, beneficiaries. They're part of an Operation Motorsport program, and their coverage is paid for and covered by Recaro and USO. Then you have the open class, which is drivers who are supporters of Operation Motorsport and serving military members and veterans who are not involved in Operation Motorsport programs. Then we have the pros. They're either competition license holders past or present, with things like IMSA, SRO, and CTC. We have iRacing road class licenses over 3.99 and or 1900 iRating. Similar would really qualify for our Beneficiary Pro class. Now, of course, we have two different cars. We have the GT4s for Beneficiary and Open, and GT3 for the Beneficiaries and Beneficiary Pros. So you'll see those two classes of cars running around today, as always. And last week, we had a great race, Rodney. Of course, we had a win from Matt Smotherman in the Beneficiary Pro class, and Meismer for the Beneficiaries.
Yes, it was an interesting race last time around. Certainly with the pit strategy played out for Matt nicely, and he took home the win. It'd be interesting to see if he can do the same here. We have the same fuel restrictions on this race, so we will have a pit stop halfway through the race, and so pit strategy could come into play here depending on traffic and where cars are and where they are with fuel. So hopefully,
go ahead.
Yeah, hopefully it'll make it for an exciting race, especially midway through the race as those pit stops play out.
It certainly will. And throughout today's broadcast, we're going to be playing a little game here with Rodney and myself. We're going to try and pronounce some of the corner names here at Zolder as we go through the race. So you'll get to enjoy our terrible attempts at that because, well, they're in Flemish. So
I was hoping you were not going to ask that question or ask me to do that. I've got the numbers, but I do not have the names. I'm looking at the name list here and I'm going, okay, good luck, Rachel.
They are quite tough. I will give you the easy part here. The last part of the corner name is Boch, which is corner. So that's relatively easy. Try turn 3. Go on.
Turn 3.
Track map for the
Canal block.
Canal block. Enough.
How's that?
Do we actually have a track map we can show on the broadcast at all? Is that something we could possibly show up for people just to see how crazy some of these names are? I don't know if we do, but we'll try as we go on. As we start to go, though, we'll keep our eyes on everything as it tracks. Round 2, we're not really looking towards a championship yet, but there's definitely people thinking towards that point, as they always are. And, of course, whilst we're here, a little bit more about Operation Motorsport. The Operation eMotorsport iRacing League is a structured virtual racing series that brings together beneficiaries, veterans, military members, race car drivers and crew members, and other supporters of the foundation to compete in a friendly virtual sports car racing environment. They are a veteran-led and operated not-for-profit based in both Brighton, Ontario and Raleigh, North Carolina, serving both Canadian and American service members and veterans. And they were founded on the basis of 3 simple words: excite, engage, and empower. The premise is to engage ill and injured service members and veterans affected by military service through motorsport activities to aid in their recovery and rehabilitation. And furthering that, of course, we will be getting a chance to talk to Jason Leach later on, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Operation Motorsport. So we'll chat to him during the race tonight. It's always a good chance to chat to Jason. Of course, we had Chris Ramirez last week, who is the organizer for the eMotorsport League and a former Marine himself. I don't we don't say former Marine, do we? We just say Marine.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah, they're the one branch that gets a little stickly about that one. Everybody else is they're former Army, they're former Air Force. Marines, they just don't clock out. As we go here, though, qualifying looking pretty interesting in terms of our position so far. Walsh and Smotherman looking pretty strong towards the top of the Pro and Pro Ben. With Elliott, Tyler Guillemette there. We've got Wallace, Nelson, Stiffel. Slightly smaller grid today. And we have Matt Aote leading the way in the beneficiaries at the moment. With nearest qualification to him is Philippe Chartier, a bit further back. And we have, Greg Meismer's shoved himself up the list there, last week's winner. He's now sitting second. His lap time just time by was a 1:36.6. And Rodney, talk about these chicanes. We're seeing them on screen right now. Just how much of a huge part of the lap are these 3 chicanes?
Oh, they're very, very tough chicanes because the speed that you're carrying as you approach them is so high that getting slowed down and getting through them safely but fast is a delicate balancing act. And certainly the drivers that can do it tonight will advance towards the front of the field. But as the drivers approach other cars, they have to be wary that mayhem can occur at these chicanes and be ready to dodge and weave if necessary. But it's definitely a technical part of the track, and the curbs on the inside of these chicanes are large and can bounce the car around quite a bit. So if you don't hit them right, the car could go flying. And we've seen some of that in practice tonight. We'll see how the race progresses here. Hopefully, under race pace, people will take it a little easier and make sure they get through, because you have to finish to win. And if you don't finish, there's no possibility of a win. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the old saying, you have to finish first, you must first finish. And I'll take the easy cheat here with my first corner pronunciation, which is turn 5, the Kleiner chicane. So I got away easy with that one. I'll punish myself later, don't worry. Turn 1, well, the first chicane, I should say, not turn 1, is turn 5. There we go, we have the map on screen for you. Turn 5 there. That is the first major challenge of a lap here, I think, Rodney, because they've got the easy run through 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down there is where the cars are also very close on lap 1, and it's a huge braking zone, big bottleneck, and it really causes some issues.
Yeah, certainly on the first lap where everybody is tight, it's going to bottle everything up because everybody has to slow down. That's the tightest chicane, or feels the tightest anyways, that's for sure, because of the speed you're carrying as you approach that. You're full out in 5th gear, and it is quite a tight chicane with very big sausages on the insides of both chicanes, so you've got to hit it just right, and but it can be taken aggressively. So you'll see different approaches tonight from different drivers as they approach these chicanes. Some will blast through them. You'll see them blast through those sausages and bounce their car around and try and carry the most speed through and try and keep it under control, or others will be a little more cautious and stick to the pavement and weave their way through the chicane. So, those different approaches, will, pan out in the end if a driver can survive. It's hard for 30 minutes to be pounding through those chicanes and pounding over those sausages to always get it right and not get knocked off the track. So,
Absolutely, of course. And as you can see from the track map here, just how tight this circuit is. And this is why we call it the non-street circuit, because it really does lend that feel. It's so tight, it's so confined. The pit road basically backs onto the back straight there for turn 5. It is super, super confined in where the location is here, so it makes it very difficult. And just because I punished poor Rodney with that first corner name there for turn 3, I will take a swing at turn 8. Bolderberghaspelboch.
I think that's Flemish for turn 8.
Yeah, I think it must be. Yeah. That seems about right. There's some easy ones on there, but I thought I'd go for the longest single word in the entire corner names. And I'm glad I don't have to commentate with just the names. That would be awful.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see from the pictures tonight that the track is tight here and the walls are tight too. That's also gives it that street racing feel, because there's no big runoffs except for some of the first turns.
It does indeed, and you saw the canal there, but right now you're going to see the grid because we're at that. And starting out for the pros and pro bands, we have Matt Smotherman leading the way there for pro beneficiary, with Chris Walsh in second place behind him. We have Jesse Elliott, we have Martin Wallace there, we have Tyler Guillemette, pro Ben, we have Ed Nelson, pro, we have Gabriel Albano, pro, Joe Stiffel in pro, and last but not least for them, pro beneficiary Scott Andrews. Then we have for the beneficiaries, Matt Aote with Greg Meismer behind him in second. Third for them will be Philip Chartier. Fourth will be Ryan Hoover. And fifth, Elliot Whitfield. Sixth, Brian Knight. For the open class, Philippe Carrillo, Jake Porter, Steve Santana, the new entry, Rick Haslett, Kyle Smith, rounding out your field. Don't be afraid if it doesn't look like we follow the order of the listings on screen. Those are the qualifying orders with all the classes mixed. In terms of how we actually run things, we tend to go for the different classes as they actually fit. We'll get away with a pace lap here as the safety car will pull away. You'll get a good look at the full scope of this lap. And it isn't a long one, Rodney. It's a very short lap, but it's short and violent.
Yes, absolutely. And you can see that the GT4 cars are hanging back. They don't want any part of the GT3 cars for the first few corners. So that's a good strategy on their part to leave a good gap behind. It'll be interesting tonight, too. You can see the difference in speeds here from qualifying, that there's like an 8-second difference in lap times between the GT3s and GT4s. Clothing speeds are going to be quite high, and because it's a shorter track than it was last week, there's going to be a lot more of the lapping happening in this race. So lap management is going to be key.
It certainly will be, yes. Lap management, traffic management will all be major factors for these drivers, and like we just said, it is a very short lap. Short and violent, like a midget with a chainsaw. Either way, we're going to have a good race tonight no matter what happens, because these guys are some of the cleanest and most considerate and honourable races I actually get to commentate on. And if people make mistakes, they typically will own up to it themselves. They'll let people have positions back. And if we do get issues tonight, it's going to be more because of the track than anything else. This place does have a tendency to spit cars out when it wants to. We're coming through the second chicane now, up towards the back of the track. This one can be a little tricky because the entry will suck you in there, Rodney, and you can find yourself very much offline towards the exit.
Yes, I ran a couple of laps this afternoon in practice, and I was finding that one very difficult. It takes a little bit of muscle memory or experience on the track to find out where your braking points are.
So it does. Right, coming through the final corners now, we'll be heading towards Jackie Ixbach and the final chicane here, and then we'll get this race underway tonight for Operation E-Motorsport iRacing League. Under the Excel Sport Bridge towards the final section here, and we'll let these cars loose as the safety car will pull down the pit road entry, which is, again, slightly more complicated than I remember, actually. It's a full-on S-turn they'll have to complete because we will be refueling during this race, so they'll have to come down pit road for that. Field under the command of Matt Smotherman there. Waiting for the flagman to wave it, and we have green flag, and they are going, and it's already a big stack as fourth place starts to make a move further forward here. Too wide, too deep into the first corner here as they'll cycle through. Very much an early apex for this one, tracking out wide as the field will come through nice and clear. Behind them, the GT4 cars coming across the line to start this race here with AOT, Meismer, Carrillo, Porter. Much more singled out here, Rodney, for this second pack as the pros and pro beneficiaries head towards that first chicane.
Yeah, everybody's by the first few corners here nicely, and looks like everybody's in line, showing a little bit of patience here for the start, which is a good thing.
So, a little bit of issue there for the pros, I believe, as we came through the chicane. I think it was the Lamborghini there of maybe Martin Wallace, if I'm not wrong. I am entirely wrong, actually. Don't listen to me. Tyler Glimett, he cooked the first part of it, like we said could happen, and ended up offline, and a little bit of contact, but nothing too major. Keeps it going.
Yeah, he was lucky to get away with it there, especially with all the traffic around him, but he managed to gather it up and get it back on track and carry on. You can see the GT4s coming through that chicane as well, and looking very well. They're all strung out, single file, taking it easy.
It's the safest way, I think, to start a lap here at Zolder with that chicane, is to give each other plenty of room. It is a corner where we just saw how easy it is. Making a small mistake yourself puts you in a horrible position with traffic, but it has already sorted our field into single file now as they head on to lap number 2 here of our 30-minute race. Not a lot of time in the books because it is quite a short lap, so we'll be seeing a lot of laps around here, which does mean we'll see possibly some tyre wear on this car. You've driven here before, right, Rodney?
Yes, I have, and yeah, tire wear certainly for drivers like me that tend to chew up the tires can be a factor, but in a 30-minute race it shouldn't play into how it ends, I don't think.
No, we should definitely see this be a strategy and simply managing the laps race around here, because the fuel timing will be interesting. Of course, we have that 10-minute window where the fuel window is really open from 10 minutes in to 10 minutes to go, where the drivers can stop, and we typically see them mostly go towards the end of that window from what we've seen.
Yeah, most people will stay out on track to the very end, but we have seen where maybe some cars are coming upon lap traffic and they'll decide to hop into the pits to try and avoid that. But then again, you never know where you're going to come out after you've done that. And we saw that last week where we had some pit strategies of people going in a little bit early, but they came out in traffic and were not able to take advantage and undercut the guy in front. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens as this plays out.
It will indeed. Of course, not sure how seriously some of these guys are taking this, but I know there are various companion apps that work with the sim that allow you to actually see where you will come out in traffic when you pit, which is fantastically useful. Of course, in real racing that is calculated. You'll work out where you're going to come out, so pitting in traffic can be a very valid tactic. In fact, it can be one that's achieved in the sim as well. As we see here, that's your kind of leaders now from the pro class there, running up towards the first chicane again. Walsh and Smotherman, technically under 2 separate classes, but both vying for the race win here regardless. And from what we've seen right now, Matt Aote's lost a spot or two here. Greg Meismer leading the way right now for your GT4s and the beneficiary class overall, as they're heading through Lucien Bianchi there, turn number 4. Looking down the start-finish straight here at some of these guys. I believe this is actually him coming through there. Oh, wide into the sand trap on the exit of 1. That would be what happened to Matt Aote that let those 2 cars through. It's an easy mistake to make, just a little bit too much speed, and you will pay for it.
Yeah, that's another tricky corner, very fast corner, but you've got to slow down enough to make the corner, and quite easy to run wide, and that's why they have that big runoff there, is because it happens quite often.
Certainly does, of course, and you have to be careful because on the far side of that is pit road exit, so it can it could make it interesting if you got it too wrong.
Yes, and
Porter there. We're getting a replay of what just happened here. As Porter had a bit of a lucky escape there from what could have been disastrous for the open class driver. A spinning car exiting the chicane.
Yeah, he avoided the spinning car, but it looks like he spun in the chicane. didn't look like he got a tap from behind. Looked like it was just maybe over-rotating in the chicane, which is easy to do.
But it seemed like he rolled backwards into traffic, but thankfully he stopped and no one hit him, so a lucky escape there for those drivers. We'll see Porter and co running here. Heading up towards... Oh, that's a repeat of what happened there to Porter. Oh, yes, no, that was definitely not the one we saw a moment ago, but that was a very lucky escape for everybody involved there. It was just a little tap.
Yeah, that's what tends to happen around here with these chicanes. Very difficult and very... especially if you're right on the bumper of a car and the car in front decides to step out on you, and you're stuck staring at his windshield to windshield, looking at each other as you slide off into the dirt. But all the cars seem to gather themselves up. Doesn't look like there was much damage, and everybody carried on.
Very much so. As looking towards, I believe that is that Tyler Guillemette I can see there? 666 of Wallace we're looking at right now. We're on board with him on the wheel arch there as he looks towards turn 4. Big fast corner, that one. Not a lot of braking involved for turn 4, but it does set you up for this big straight here down the back of the pit boxes. Watch the onboard here for the first chicane. Cutting us a lot, but if you cut them a little bit too much, it could be absolutely disastrous.
Yeah, those big sausages on the inside, he took all he could take there without hitting the sausages. Very smooth through there, so very nicely done.
Nice and efficiently through those chicanes. As we'll take another stab at the corner name for Rodney, I think, right now. What should we give him?
Oh, give me corner 6.
No, you know what? Yes, you can have turn 6.
Butte?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Thought you'd say something else, but yes, that one worked. Now, as we're getting the guys now running along the final one, that's Jackie Ixboch, named after the famous Belgian Formula 1 driver, of course. Or French, actually, technically.
Yeah, this track has special meaning also for me as a Canadian as well. This is where the track that Gilles Villeneuve died on in the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix qualifying session.
Yeah, father of Jacques Villeneuve, of course, and the circuit in Montreal named after Gilles Villeneuve.
Yes, and we'll be racing there later in this season, I believe.
Certainly will be, which will be a great race. That track always promises fantastic, exciting racing, so look forward to seeing that. Back into turn 1 for a number of these drivers here as a little bit of slowdown in the middle of our field there. Some of the back markers now starting to get lapped already. That was Ryan Hoover being lapped by some of the further up cars. You can see him in the back of that grouping as they head into the chicane here. And it's getting very busy on track now as everyone trying to find ways to filter past and hopefully not have to do it in those chicanes, Rodney. As
yes.
Probably one of the worst awful timing you can imagine.
Yeah, we're just 5 minutes into the race here almost, and we're already seeing the lap track back. So we're, at this pace, we'll probably at least 3 times the GT3s will be passing through the field. So that's going to make it interesting for the drivers to.
Contact just now before we have a chat to Jason Leach, we just had contact with Tyler Guillemette. His second contact in a chicane so far today, after the first one. Up the inside of a lap car that ended up turning into him there. Probably because the lap car didn't see him. But that was in the final chicane there, and a bit of a clonk to the rear wheel arch. Not ideal. Yeah, this is him now. We're seeing this replay. You'll see him just dive up the inside at the last second for the chicane. Probably not what I would have done, but... Oh, I think they were... Oh, no. I don't think he intended to. I think they were braking way sooner than he thought. And it was an avoidance measure that happened to go that way.
He might have been surprised that be coming up on the GT4 so quickly and seeing them brake so differently than the GT3s.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. But we are going to get a chance to chat to Jason Leach right now, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Operation Motorsport. Jason, do we have you?
Hey guys, how you doing tonight?
We're absolutely wonderful, and thank you for joining us on the broadcast this evening. I'd like to get a couple of questions if you've got some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for you.
Well, first off, how are you doing this evening? How have you been enjoying the racing so far?
I've been doing well, and I'm sitting here watching it, and I know this is a tight circuit, and I think if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time the league has been at this track for a Tuesday night race. I'm actually very surprised at how tight the racing is, and that people are not spinning out more often than they are. I know we just see a car here come off track and now coming back on, but generally speaking, I'm very impressed with how clean everybody is coming up through the field.
Yeah, they certainly are. And obviously with the new edition of the Class of Pro Beneficiary, could you maybe talk a little bit about that as a change?
Yeah, so what we have found over the last couple of seasons of doing this league is we've had some beneficiary drivers, those who are partaking in Operation Motorsport programs. And Matt Smotherman's a great example, right? He is consistently fast in the class, whatever class he's in. So what Chris Ramirez, the eMotorsports iRacing manager, elected to do for this season was kind of promote them into the higher level cars. They've already demonstrated the driving experience needed to control the higher level cars and the pace to stay up there with what has typically been our pro-rated drivers. And Matt, I know he won at Daytona last weekend. He's keeping up here with Chris Walsh pretty well on this circuit. So this is a way to challenge those beneficiaries a bit more, but then also in the other side of the beneficiary class, give those drivers who are maybe newer to the sim, newer to sports car racing, the opportunity to kind of compete more for a class win within with where they're at based on their skill level.
A fantastic addition, if you ask me, actually, in this case. But another big news, of course, Operation Motorsport had a huge year in 2022, and with the world basically back to normal now, tell me about the plans for the organization in 2023.
Well, I can tell you right now, if you thought 2022 was big, just wait until 2023 unfolds. One of the things we're going to be doing, we've expanded our base and activations inside of IMSA, particularly in the Michelin Pilot Series and the new VP Racing Fuel Series. Tyler Guglielmente, who's racing here tonight, was at Daytona with the VP Racing side. One kind of thing, I'm not quite sure if I'm allowed to say, but you guys have been with us for a number of years, so I feel comfortable saying it here. We have 6 beneficiaries that are going to be active inside of Michelin Pilot with Dealey Motorsports. What is unique about that, though, is not the fact that we're going to have an increased activation inside of IMSA, but the fact that we're going to have 6 beneficiaries on the team with one car in Dealey Motorsports and their Hyundai Elantra TCR car. That's huge for us. Typically, what you would have seen in the past is 1, maybe 2, at the most 3 activations inside of one race car team. And Skip Barber Racing would be a good example of that in SRO last year in the TC series. But really what this means is the entire crew is going to be made up of Operation Motorsport beneficiaries. This weekend, we start that practice. We're going to be out at Hallett Raceway Park in Oklahoma for a 3-day test session with Bob and his team and the cars, and start getting those beneficiaries acclimated to that car, acclimated to working together as a crew. Prior to that opportunity this year, the only time we really would have done that would have been at the Race for Remembrance, where we bring everybody together that is activated throughout the prior year, learn those new skills inside the race car teams they were embedded with, and then operate together as an Operation Motorsport team. Although we won't be necessarily an Operation Motorsport team inside of the Michelin Pilot Series this year, this will be the biggest activation with one team that we've seen in our history.
That has to speak to the reputation Operation Motorsport is garnering with the teams in these various series, that they love the guys that you bring to races and they're doing great things.
Well, really what it speaks to is one, this is an opportunity that presented itself and we jumped on it. Secondly, though, it really speaks to the skill level that these beneficiaries bring to the team. Everything they've learned in their military career, whether it was, only a couple years or maybe it was 20 years, The ability to work together as a team, the ability to stay focused, support each other, understand what leadership means, understand what taking direction means from the team principal, but then also being able to kind of think on their feet, identify when challenges exist, and help each other out. Everybody's working towards that common goal, and that's to put that driver in that car on the podium, in first place. It's no different than military operations where you're working towards one common goal, and it's the objective, within the mission state that you're trying to achieve. It's a little bit different here. Nobody's shooting at you inside the paddock. There's a very little chance of enemy combat or contact. So it's a bit safer environment, relatively speaking.
I'd hope no one's shooting at you in the race paddock. That could become incredibly competitive.
I think if that was to happen, we got bigger problems.
Yeah, maybe. Obviously, incredible achievement, and great to see such growth here for the organization. Are there any, beyond this, obviously, are there any future plans that you guys would like to, let's call them pipe dream goals for the organization? Things that may not be a thing yet, but you would like to achieve.
When we look long term, we've been discussing the opportunity or the idea of creating a brick and mortar location for Operation Motorsport that could be at a racetrack here in North America that's also conveniently located to a military installation. An opportunity to host military members and introduce the world of motorsports and sports car racing to them. We are looking to return back to the Race of Remembrance at Anglesey later on this year. But if we look long term, we want to bring that type of event to North America. We want to have a North American-based Race of Remembrance in a similar fashion that Mission Motorsport has put together.
I will say that given the adulation the American public in general has for the military and for veterans, which I'm so happy to see, because I know for myself in the UK it's just not a thing here, not the same way at least. I would think that would be something that would probably garner a lot of support in the US.
We think it will. It's a matter of finding those right partners, those right sponsors, those right people that can help make that happen. It's not an easy thing to do. Anybody that's been involved with any sports car racing will tell you. But we've already started laying some of that groundwork. We were out at the PRI show this past December, talking to various race series, talking to various partners or potential partners to kind of start planting that seed now, so we can grow it over the next couple of years to make this a reality.
Well, it certainly sounds like an exciting future for Operation Motorsport. Jason, I won't take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Of course, this is Jason Leach, the Chief Operating Officer of Operation Motorsport. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Thanks to Podium for continuing to be a good partner with us on helping broadcast this race and promote it. And anybody out there that's looking at more, come visit us, operationmotorsport.org on the webs, or follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We're all over the place, so come be a part of our team.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Jason Leach there. Rodney, what have you seen on the track whilst we've been talking to Jason?
Well, as you've been talking there, a few of the cars have snuck into the pits here early, so we're already starting to see the pit cycles starting to take place here. Matt Smotherman's been through, but Chris Walsh, the leader of the Pro, is still out there on the track.
He certainly is. Chris Walsh up ahead there of Matt Smotherman. We've got the shake-up in that, of course. We'll see when Chris comes down pit road. Of course, the GT4s, GT3s will have different fuel burns and fuel cycle times there. Weirdly, I just saw Smotherman seem to almost roll backwards for a second in his pit box before he started going again. But this is, of course, a slightly graded pit road, so probably just getting his car started there from the stop. He's back out on the track now, and he is going to be, I believe, still behind Chris Walsh, so we'll see this one filter through shortly, but we are starting to get those pit stops beginning to happen now, as we are about 10 minutes remaining here on the clock, about when we expected things.
Yeah, Chris is just coming into the pits now, so as we this must be probably pretty much the end of the pit cycle for the GT3s.
Absolutely, yeah, he's just heading onto pit road now, and we'll see how that shakes out with Matt Smotherman in a second and where he ends up. But this shows you how convoluted this pit road is, from the multiple corners and chicanes on the entry and even the exit.
Yeah, this is a bit of a opposite of what happened last week, or the last race at Daytona, if you recall. Chris is the one that came in early, and Matt stayed out, and Matt managed to get by Chris in the pits. So we'll see where Chris comes out here and where Matt comes along and behind him here, and see whose pit strategy came out in front. And it looks like
Chris
is out in front, well out in front.
Yeah, considerable gap there as he's heading into turn 4. Matt's only really entering 3 now.
Right, and they were almost nose to tail prior to those pit stops. So
It is indeed. We'll see what happens when Nelson, Stifel, Albano and co pit as well here, but at the moment, Rick Meismer's behind Kyle Smith and Rick Haslett. They're all, of course, pitting as well here, so we'll see some cycling for your beneficiaries and open class drivers back there. Oh, big crash.
yeah, we saw a car get a little sideways and slide back onto the track there, and some others got involved.
Yep, got a replay for you here, and it didn't start with him, but I'm trying to find out who this actually did begin with. Brian Knight, I believe, one of the ones involved there, and it was a solo incident that started it. Knight got loose on the exit of the corner, spun and returned to the track in the corner. Oh no! Oh, unfortunate there.
Looks like Albano got his car slowed down enough that hopefully there's not too much damage.
It's a pretty big hit there regardless, unfortunately, there for Gabriel Albano. This is why holding the brakes is such a huge thing, especially when you can bounce back on like that. Ooh, some lucky dodges for a few of these guys, and
yeah, that looked like
Phil. The first hit.
Yeah, it looks like Philip Chartier got the worst of that.
Yeah, he really did. The beneficiary driver there, unfortunately, getting collected by Brian Knight's spin. Accidents will happen, and there's no room on this track for mistakes to happen. So, unfortunately, when it goes down here, there's really nowhere to go.
Yes, with those tight, narrow walls, there's nowhere for the cars to go, and quite often they'll bounce off those walls back into the racing line, which could lead to disaster, which we just saw there in that case.
Yeah, we did indeed, and they'll get themselves back going again. Albano's come back off pit road. Of course, they do have spare cars, so it won't really hold them back too much, especially as Gabriel was about to be pitting anyway, I suspect. So it's just add a little bit of a kink to that.
Yeah, it worked out well for his timing because he hadn't come in for a pit stop. So he comes in, collects a new car, repaired car, and back on the track, hopefully with very minimal loss in time.
We should hope so, as we'll see this filtering continue now as Meismer returns to the top of our listing ahead of Felipe Carrillo in the GT4 cars. But Steve Santana making a good showing today. He's up to 3rd overall right now in the GT4 cars.
Yes, and that's his. This is his first race, so yeah, good on him joining and being competitive right off the bat.
It very much is. Good to see more drivers entering the series, of course. And this on board there with Felipe Carrillo, looking backwards now from his car. Forwards towards the car of Greg Meismer, the Marine. Look at how narrow this track is from this onboard perspective. The walls are right next to the track. You have no room to make mistakes.
Yeah, very tough track to pass on as well because it's so narrow and so tight. Not a lot of opportunities to pass. You've got to maybe hang on the bumper here. Maybe that's what Felipe is doing, and trying to wait for that mistake and pounce.
Certainly is. We've got Steve Santana on pit road along with Matt Aote there from the 2nd spot for the beneficiaries, so we'll see them come down. Going to be 6 minutes left on the clock here, so really a lot less fuel burn than most tracks actually would have. Short lap is it? Oh, big hit there to the inside of turn 2 and 3. This was
that was our second place driver in the GT4s.
Oh, exit of the curb again has been what's bitten everyone today. Has had an issue, has been tracking out in the corners and catching some of that Belgian dirt. Not gone too well for them all. Again, narrow track. You've really got nowhere to run off because you're straight onto grass. There's no asphalt runoff like a lot of the American circuits here. It does make it much more challenging.
Yes, and as the race goes on and as those tires wear, you've got to recognize that you don't have the same grip as maybe you did at the beginning of the race, and have to back off a little bit off those corners where you may have been more aggressive in the first part of the race.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, that does take the pressure there off Greg Meismer. It wasn't really on him, of course, because himself and Carrillo are two separate classes, but they are, as we know, the two car types, they all race together. You know, both pros and pro beneficiaries race each other, and the beneficiaries and open race each other.
Absolutely.
People see.
Yeah, inside the cars or inside their rigs at their houses, I'm sure they don't differentiate beneficiary or otherwise. They're looking at the GT4 cars as all one class, and they want to do the best they can within that class. So the only thing they may do is give a little more respect to some of the beneficiaries in the corners, but even then, people are racing hard here tonight, and it's good to see some good hard racing.
Yeah, very much is. As wow, these guys putting the work in with this one, and I'm pretty sure they're all going to be very tired after this race. It is a very confined little spot that makes things. You really have no time to relax as a driver around here, because even the straights aren't that long, so you're mostly you're maybe moving your hand a little bit, just then back into driving that car as hard as possible. Looking at Wallace here from 6th place in the pros, as we Joe Stiffle behind him. Tight through that second chicane.
Joe's trying to put some pressure on him here, and hopefully maybe try and get him into a mistake. But Wallace is a pretty steady driver. Joe and Martin have been racing. Last season they raced quite a bit together, so they're sort of equal skilled drivers that always put on a good show and always very respectful. And when they pass each other, so Joe may be sizing him up here for a few laps to see if he can get a pass, or where the opportunity, or where he thinks he might be faster on the track to maybe get a pass on him.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he can do with it, but the racing will go down to the final moments, of course, as always. 2 minutes 50 on the board here for the guys, as there's still plenty of time to make moves if you get the chance. Stiffle and Wallace there, really neck and neck, one of our closer races we have tonight.
Yeah, we're getting down to it here. Probably about 3 laps to go, and you've got to make your moves now, because if you wait to the last lap, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think it will, of course. We'll have to see if they can find something here towards the end. This is going to be a real tough one, but there's still some opportunity. I'm sure they'll find it if they can. Oh, cars off the track in the final chicane there. No contact, thankfully. We'd have a car cross in front of 2 cars exiting the corner, which made things a little bit spicier than they needed to be. But everyone keeping themselves fair and clean here. Lots of people making a bit more dramatic moves at this point of the race, Rodney. A little bit tired, I think.
Yeah, and I think they're looking at the clock as well, and seeing that the time's ticking away here, and they've got to make their moves now, or they're not going to be able to improve their positions. Hopefully they are safe about doing it, and make those passes in a smart way, or else they will be going backwards down the grid as opposed to upwards.
Very much will be, as right now, car has appeared there, GT4 car for him. It's the 003 here, car belonging to Joe Stiffle. Looking towards Wallace ahead of him. He wants a piece of this still. Some of our closest racing we have.
Yeah, maybe Joe's hoping that some of the lap traffic can impact Martin in front of him, and he can close up and maybe make a pass. There's certainly lots of traffic out there in front of him, you can see.
Yeah, very much is, as last minute on the clock here for us tonight, as we get ready to round up our race here at Zolder. Chris Walsh, his pit cycle really worked for him. They both came in nose to tail, him and Matt Smotherman, but the gap has opened from that pit cycle. Walsh really did a better job getting on and off pit road. He's 9 seconds up the road here from Matt Smotherman. Of course, they're both pro and pro beneficiaries, so it's technically different, but at the same time, they are equal drivers in terms of speed from what we know, Rodney.
Yeah, we certainly saw that last week, but Chris certainly has this track down and has taken advantage of the pit cycle and has had some clear racing in front of him. He hasn't seemed to have had the, or at least catching some of the lap traffic in opportune places.
Yeah, definitely. And that is down to our final moments here. Chris Walsh will come across the line, winning today for the Pro class. A very, very good drive there in the GT4, or the Ford GT, GT3 I should say. I do love seeing the old style Ford GT out there. It really makes me happy. Coming up now as well, Matt Smotherman has come across the line for the Pro beneficiaries. We've got Tyler Guillemette as well coming across the line there. Stiffle didn't make the pass on Wallace in time, unfortunately, but they'll all come home together. Behind them is Greg Meisman, still got his last lap to complete for the beneficiaries of the GT4 cars, and we'll see if he has a good, clean rest of his lap.
Yeah, he's looking very good. He's not being pressed here. Just bring it home.
Yeah, bring it home, keep it safe. He has a pretty good gap over even Carrillo. Never mind the next beneficiary, Matt Ayotte, who himself has finished a lap down there from Meismer, who is the only GT4 car that wasn't lapped twice. So an achievement there for Greg. He was the only guy that was lapped once, not twice. Pretty astounding run. Here he comes now through the final chicane. The Jackie X Bach out of that last corner now, and for a big waving victory drive across that line there for him, for the beneficiaries and GT4 in general. With the last of our drivers crossing here, we will go to your post-race results after a short message.
Soldiers, sailors, airmen and women enlist in the armed forces for many reasons, including a sense of
Sorry,
duty,
I'm a little bit less than
the
usual
adventure,
tonight.
travel,
I've got a
and
horrible
adrenaline.
stomach pain.
When service members are injured or wounded and can no longer perform their military duties, they quickly find themselves removed from their team, no longer serving the purpose for which they trained.
I came back from Afghanistan in 2013, and it was kind of a trial and error of finding out, after the military, what's next in life.
Motorsports offers an opportunity to regain that sense of identity within a safe, fast-paced team environment, providing a renewed sense of purpose. Like in the military, in motorsports the goal is in accomplishing the mission, winning as a team, collectively celebrating the successes and supporting teammates through the losses. Operation Motorsport also offers virtual engagements and recovery opportunities through an iRacing league, engaging beneficiaries in a safe, competitive environment from the comfort and safety of their home. Operation Motorsport believes in the power of team, identity, and purpose.
Welcome back to Operation E Motorsport iRacing League, round number 2 here at Zolder. The Belgian countryside has definitely provided us a good race tonight. Post-race results, Chris Walsh comes home for the pros in first place, with Matt Smotherman first for the pro beneficiaries. Tyler Guillemette in second for the pro beneficiaries, with Jesse Elliott second for the pros, with Ed Nelson, Joe Stiffle, Martin Wallace and Gabriel Albano. Last but not least, of course, Scott Andrews, pro beneficiary. Behind them we have Greg Meismer for the beneficiaries, topping the GT4s, with Felipe Carrillo for the open class. We have Rick Haslett, Kyle Smith, Matt Ayotte, Jake Porter, Steve Santana, Philip Chartier, Elliot Whitfield, Ryan Hoover, Brian Knight, rounding out your field. Well, with that in mind, we're going to have a chance to chat to our winner for the Pro beneficiaries tonight. Matt Smotherman joining us for a second time in 2 rounds. You seem to be having a good time up there in the GT3 cars.
Oh yeah, having a heck of a time. It's quite difficult keeping up with Chris though. He's an animal out there.
Do tell me what happened with the pit cycle, because you lost about 9 seconds on him during that cycle. What happened?
Goodness, it was so I was approaching traffic going into that final chicane before the pit exit, and I had a decision to make where I thought that maybe if I got held up too much in that chicane, I'd lose more time than if I just went ahead and pit a little bit early. I don't think that panned out for me, and I also think that once I pit, Chris just put the hammer down as well, so he just extended that lead.
Well, you win some, you lose some, but you still won some. So
feels like a win.
Yeah, it makes all the difference. Obviously, we do have another actual street track coming up this season in Montreal. Thoughts on that track?
I love Montreal. I love that track. Something about that track, I don't know exactly what it is, but it always agrees with me, unless my system shuts down, which happens half the time. So as long as that doesn't happen, it'll be a great time.
Wonderful. Looking forward to that. So, anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
My wife, if she's watching right now, she's the best.
That she is watching, or if she's watching?
I don't know if she's watching. She had music on before I hopped into the sim, so hopefully she's watching.
Always hope for the best. No, thank you so much, Matt, for joining us, and hopefully she is watching you win a second time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. It's Matt Smotherman coming home today with the win for the Pro beneficiaries, and standing by with Greg Meismer, who won for the beneficiaries in GT4, is Rodney Campbell.
Hi, Greg. How are you tonight?
Excellent. I am excellent after that.
How was it out there with all that traffic? Quite a bit of a different track than last time at Daytona, wasn't it?
You know, I was honestly thinking that the traffic was going to be way worse than it was. Luckily, I think I pitted in a good spot, and I missed most of the GT3 traffic. So yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it looks like you had some pressure from the leading open car in Felipe on your tail for a good part of the tail end of that race.
Oh man, he had me sweating.
Unfortunately, you had a little incident and then gave you a little breathing room to cruise home.
Yeah, but he had me sweating. Matt had me sweating too with that 36.0 qualifying time. I hadn't hit that all week in practice, and unfortunately, I guess he had a little spin on one of the chicanes, but yeah, ended up having a good race, getting that overall win.
Cool. You're looking forward to? I think we're going to VIR in Virginia next race.
Oh, love it, can't wait. Love that track. Always do well there.
So you're looking to continue your dominance of the beneficiary class?
I'm not gonna call anything yet. It's still a little early in the season.
That's probably a little smart.
But I feel good. I feel like we can put something good together at VIR.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you there in the next for the next race. Anybody you'd like to shout out and thank?
Yeah, you guys over at Podium for hosting the broadcast, Operation Motorsports for hosting the whole series, and taking care of us beneficiaries. ZFG, my team, they always do awesome. Thanks, Martin and Kyle. PTSD Foundation of America also. Thanks, guys.
Great. That's Greg Meismer. He's our winner in the beneficiary class tonight in the GT3 Austin Martin.
Wonderful. Well, we'll get a chance to chat to hopefully him again next week. But in the meanwhile, we have second place tonight, Matt Eote. Matt, busy race today. The track was incredibly tight and confined. How is it racing for you at Zolder?
I like it. It's got a good flow if you can get into the rhythm. It's got initially I found the chicanes broke up the flow, but once you get into a good rhythm of how to go through the chicanes, it's got quite a good flow to it.
It certainly does have that. Just how was it trying to chase down Mr. Meismer, today?
It's pretty good. I think the left side start kind of did me in right at the beginning because it set us up for a chicane right on green. So he kind of already was in a position to take that chicane on green light, whereas I was too far on the left. And then I knocked a sausage curb on like lap 2 going into the first chicane. And rather than aggressively re-enter, I kind of waited out, and so I went all the way from dead last in both all the GT4s, and so I'm pretty happy that I was able to work my way back up.
Well, you certainly managed that in second place, nothing to sniff at all in a very, very potent field. Matt, anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Well, I just want to thank Opmo, Operation Motorsports, for giving them the opportunities and opening up these opportunities for us. I really appreciate that. The stuff that this started with a dream with Tiffany and Diesel, and taking lessons learned from our counterparts across the pond in England and putting this all together. They should be really proud of what they're accomplishing, as well as all the other staff that put in so much volunteer time to allow this to happen. And much appreciated.
Couldn't say it better myself. Well, thanks for joining us, Matt. We'll hope to see you next week.
Thank you. Take care.
And last but not least, we have Philip Chartier, who is waiting to talk to Rodney Campbell.
Hello, Philip. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. You're starting to make a habit of this. This is the second race in a row that you've found a podium within the beneficiary class. Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, I've always listened to the broadcast while running, and I got tired of never hearing the Navy called, so hey, let's get 2 in a row.
Excellent. You had some excitement out there in the later parts of the race, I see, but you managed to gather it up and bring it home.
Oh yeah. I was doing good with. I saw Matt fell down out of second, so I was like, all right, I got second, and then hit Mr. Knight, and I thought, okay, I'm out of it, and then I saw I was right there for third, so I was able to push myself and get that third place.
Oh, it's excellent. You never know when you're out of it in these things, and just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and carry on, and you never know. And 2 weeks in a row that you've found your way into the podium, so that's very well done.
That's right. Yeah, it was definitely interesting going into this track.
How were you finding the lap track and the GT3s as they made their way through you? They had to come through you about 3 times this race.
Yeah, no, I think they did pretty well. I was able to slow down in certain corners, and I think I was able to stay predictable enough for them, and they were predictable to catch their corners and get around me. I thought it was pretty easy.
Excellent. Anybody you'd like to shout out to and thank?
Well, of course, Team Opmo, because without them we don't have this. Tiffany and Diesel for coming up with the program and everything, and with like Jason was saying, joining the team, I get to be one of those beneficiaries. So big shout out to Team Operation Motorsport.
Excellent. That's Philip Chartier, our third place finisher in the beneficiary class, representing the Navy tonight.
And the Navy always do love to be recognized. The men in the big grey war canoes are very important. Thanks for joining us, Philip. Well, folks, that is everything from us tonight. And, oh, no, it is not everything, because I forgot to do our beneficiary spotlight earlier. I am so incredibly sorry. We're going to do it right now. Let's pull that one up. We have Hunter Reeve. I'm an idiot. Hunter Reeve, however, is amazing. Let's show that one on screen for us. Hunter is currently married to his wife, Tamara, who graciously tolerates his hobbies. They have 2 fur babies, 1 dog and 1 cat. And Hunter joined the US Army in 2011, where he spent some time in Korea in 2015. He left the military in 2017 after more than 6 years of dedicated service. Currently, Hunter is back in school and working part-time. When not engaged in school, work, or all things motorsports, he also enjoys fishing, reading, and biking. Hunter's benefited from sim racing in many ways, and through Operation Motorsport, he's been welcomed into a community of people with similar backgrounds with a means for engagement outside of real life. Due to some health issue he faced, his mental health took a toll. iRacing has given him a tool to help him intensely concentrate and forget about his situation. This year, Hunter attended a 5-day race school at Lime Rock Park held by Skip Barber in preparation for being one of the drivers at the Operation Motorsport's entry into the Race of Remembrance. So a big shout out there to Hunter Reeve, race number 2's beneficiary spotlight. Well, with that in mind, let's not forget to tune in to the next race on the 28th, which is VIR. It is next week, and so thank you to the series partners for Operation Motorsport, iRacing League, iRacing, and the USO of North Carolina, for Jason Leach, Diesel Loader, Chris Ramirez, and the entire Operation Motorsports team, for Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium Esports, camera builder Dougie Beard, our producer Gary Sexton, Cameron Oberdan on social media, and my colleague this evening, Rodney Campbell. I'm your host, Rachel Wyford. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the Operation E Motorsport iRacing League, and we wish you a good night.